All right, so organic orchards. Growing all that fruit, but without using synthetic pesticides. I mean, it sounds kind of idyllic when you put it that way,
It does.
but also a little intimidating, right? Like,
Yeah,
how do you even begin to protect those apples and pears from, well, everything out there that wants to munch on them?
right.
And that's what we're going to unpack today, how organic orchardists deal with those challenges, especially when it comes to a really common fungal foe,
Mhm.
apple and pear scab.
Yeah, you're right. Scab is a major, major concern. It can really impact both the quality and quantity of your harvest.
And for our listeners who might not be familiar, what does scab actually look like?
All right.
If I saw it on a piece of fruit in the store, would I even know?
You probably would. Like imagine, those apples you sometimes see with those like rough, dark patches on the skin,
Yeah, yeah.
those blemishes. Offer the work of scab. It can, one, just make the fruit less appealing visually,
Hmm.
but it can also affect the taste.
Okay. Yeah, definitely not the kind of apple I'm reaching for. So for organic growers, dealing with this is critical, especially, we're seeing more and more people wanting organic produce.
Absolutely. Consumer demand for organic is growing. But but so are the challenges, right, of producing those pristine, beautiful fruits that everyone's, kind of expects.
Right.
And that's why understanding diseases like scab is so important. This is a make or break issue for a lot of organic orchardists. It's easy to think, organic orcharding, oh, we're just, swapping out the synthetic pesticides for something, what do we call natural, right?
Right.
But it's so much more nuanced than that.
Yeah, that's what I'm realizing. So what is the organic approach to something like scab? I mean, is it just a constant uphill battle?
It can be, but the successful organic orchardists will tell you it's about working with nature, with those rhythms and cycles,
Okay.
not just trying to outmuscle them or whatever.
Yeah.
And a big part of that is understanding, the disease itself.
Okay, so Scab 101.
Yeah.
Give me the basics here.
All right. So scab is a fungus, and it just thrives in these like cool, damp conditions,
Okay.
especially in early spring. When those apple and pear trees are just starting to leaf out, they're vulnerable.
Yeah.
And get this, the spores, they actually overwinter in fallen leaves on the ground.
Oh, wow.
And then, when the weather's just right, boom, they launch into the air to infect the new growth.
Wow. So it's like this fungal invasion every spring.
It's a battle.
So knowing that, I mean, what can organic growers even do?
A lot, actually. It starts with, those tried and true organic treatments. You probably heard of them. Sulfur and copper, the classics.
Right. Yeah, I've definitely seen those mentioned, yeah, in the articles that you sent. But how do those actually work?
So sulfur is pretty interesting. What it does is it disrupts the fungus's cell processes.
Okay.
So it basically prevents it from growing and spreading. Key is, though, to apply it preventatively, before those spores even have a chance to infect the leaves.
So timing is everything.
Timing is absolutely crucial. And that goes for copper, too. So copper, it's often used as what's called a dormant spray. So that means it's applied in late winter when the trees are still bare.
Okay.
And copper's more of a protectant, so it creates like a barrier on the surface of the tree
Uh-huh.
that prevents the fungal spores from taking hold.
So it's like suiting up your trees in armor before they head into battle.
Exactly. You
Yeah.
got it. And then there's neem oil. Now, neem oil, it's a great all-rounder. You can use it for a lot of things. When it comes to scab, its effectiveness, well, depends a bit on the specific strain of scab you're dealing with, the environment.
Oh,
So it's not, like a silver bullet, more like a good team player,
yeah.
part of a broader approach.
So it's like having a diverse team of defenders, each with their own strengths.
I like that.
But I'm guessing even with the best defenses, prevention is still key, right?
You're absolutely right. And this is where things get really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So beyond just spraying, a lot of what makes organic orcharding successful is about creating an environment that naturally discourages disease.
Okay, so less about fighting the fungus head on and more about just like making its life difficult.
Exactly. Think back to what we were talking about, how scab loves those damp, stagnant conditions, right?
Right.
So one of your best defenses, good air circulation.
That makes sense. But how do you improve airflow in an orchard? I mean, do you just put like giant fans out there?
I wish it were that easy. No, pruning. Pruning is crucial.
Okay.
And we're not just talking about a little trim here, Organic orchardists, they prune those trees pretty aggressively,
Yeah.
especially in the center,
Okay.
to create these like beautiful open structures so it allows the sunlight to reach in to dry things out, makes it much less hospitable for that scab to take hold.
So it's like giving your trees a strategic haircut.
There you go, for optimal health, exactly. And those fallen leaves we were talking about, those become a major source of infection, right?
Yeah.
So sanitation is huge in the organic approach. So that raking, removing those leaves, not glamorous,
Right.
but it can significantly reduce the amount of scab in your orchard.
Yeah, it's all about staying one step ahead of those pesky spores.
Precisely. And then another thing, picking the right varieties in the first place.
Oh, okay.
Some apple and pear varieties are naturally more resistant to scab than others.
Wait, really? So some trees are just like born fighters.
They are.
Tell me more about these like super resistant varieties. What are they?
Well, you got varieties like, for apples, you've got Liberty, Enterprise, Gold Rush. They're known for their resistance.
Right.
It's like they have a stronger immune system. Now, it doesn't mean you can just ignore all the other practices,
Right, right.
but it gives you a head start.
So even in the apple world, it pays to choose your parents wisely.
That's a good one.
But resistance, that's not always a guarantee though, is it?
You're right. You're right. And that's where that multi-layered approach that we've been talking about, really comes in. It's about building that resilient orchard ecosystem.
Right.
So even if one line of defense is breached, the others are there to hold the fort.
It's fascinating how much strategy goes into this. It's almost like I don't know, like a game of chess, like you're playing chess against the fungus.
Right.
But it makes you realize that organic orchardists, they're not just farmers. You know what I mean? They're also scientists, they're strategists.
They really are.
And maybe a little bit of a weather forecaster too, right? Yeah, because the weather plays a huge role in all of this, right? This whole dance between the orchardist and the disease.
Oh, absolutely. It's like the weather itself is another character in this whole story.
Right.
Temperature, humidity, rainfall, all of it
Right.
influences how quickly this scab is going to spread.
Right.
How effective those treatments are going to be. It's huge.
So how do they even, how does an orchardist even begin to make sense of all these variables?
Right.
It seems so complex.
It is complex. And traditionally, it's involved a lot of, intuition, observation, a bit of, honestly, guesswork. You look at the forecast and you make your best guess. But this is where technology is starting to play a really, really fascinating role.
Okay.
And this brings us back to, one of the sources you shared, Farminaut.
Right. The company that's using satellites to help farmers. Okay, I got to admit, I was a little skeptical at first. How can something so high tech, you know what I mean,
Right.
help with something as, I don't know, like grounded and, well, organic as farming?
It seems counterintuitive, right?
Yeah.
But here's where it gets really interesting. So Farminaut uses something called multispectral imaging,
Okay.
which basically means their satellites can see wavelengths of light that are invisible to us,
Oh, wow.
to the human eye. And these wavelengths, they can actually reveal a lot about the health of plants, even before any symptoms are visible to us.
So it's like giving farmers a superpower. Like they can see things that they couldn't before.
Exactly. They get to be like Superman. Right. So, for example, when plants are stressed, they often emit slightly different wavelengths of light, almost like, a subtle cry for help.
Oh, wow.
And Farminaut can detect those changes.
Oh, wow.
So it's signaling to the farmer, hey, something might be up here. You might want to take a closer look.
That's incredible. So it's not just about spotting, like, oh, there's scab.
Yeah.
It's about understanding the overall health of the trees
Yes.
and how susceptible they might be to something like that.
You got it. And on top of that, they take all the satellite data and they integrate it with like hyperlocal weather information.
Oh, wow.
So the farmer can see exactly what the conditions are like in their orchard. We're talking like down to the microclimate level.
Oh, wow.
And how those conditions might, help those diseases develop.
So it's like having a personal weather forecaster just for your orchard, being like, hey, watch out, you've got a high risk of scab in the next few days.
Exactly. Armed with all that information, right? The orchardist can make much more informed decisions, like, okay, do I need to apply a preventative treatment?
Right.
If so, when and where should I apply it to be most effective?
This is blowing my mind. It seems like this kind of technology could really be like a game changer.
Absolutely.
For organic orchardists, especially when it comes to, dealing with these diseases like scab.
Yeah, and it's not about replacing those time-tested, organic practices, the spraying, the pruning,
Right.
all that stuff we were talking about. It's about enhancing it, right?
Yeah.
Giving the grower more information, more precision,
Right.
ultimately more control.
It's like taking this ancient practice of growing fruit
Right.
and giving it a 21st century upgrade.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder, like, what other possibilities are out there as technology continues to evolve? How can it further empower farmers
Yeah,
to grow our food in a way that's good for us, good for the planet?
it's an exciting thought. Well, listeners, I hope this deep dive has given you a new appreciation for just how complex, how much ingenuity goes into organic orcharding. It's this delicate dance between science, strategy, respecting those rhythms of nature, and who knows, maybe even a little help from space.
And if you're, as intrigued by all this technology as we are, I definitely encourage you to check out Farminaut for yourselves.
Yeah,
It's a glimpse into the future of farming, where
yeah,
data, innovation, it's all helping us grow our food in a way that's good for us and good for the planet.
absolutely. And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring.